Merita Tyrell-Mitchell hails from our Twin Island Federation and is currently based in Lawton, Oklahoma. She's a grief recovery method specialist. Merita commits herself to helping others explore any misunderstandings in their experience of loss. Today, we warmly welcome Merita Tyrell-Mitchell to Good Morning SKN.
Morning, welcome.
Hi, Merita, welcome. Good morning.
We're good, thanks.
We're great, and we're so honored to be talking with you about this topic, which I think some of us navigate sometimes without knowing exactly what to do. And although there might not be a rule book, obviously your training has informed how you help others get through their grief. So what is the grief recovery method?
Recovery method is about completing unfinished business in terms of a relationship or any change in a relationship. But before I talk about the grief recovery method, I also say that I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist as well, because that comes before the grief recovery method. So it's about completing what is unfinished in a relationship. Whether through death or whether it is a breakup.
Oh. So what led you on this path to becoming a specialist? And how long have you been practicing it?
Well, I've always had a passion for grief and loss. A lot of people think that I am out of my mind, because a lot of people find it very morbid, when it comes to dealing with those things. And I really enjoy helping people. I really enjoy helping them connect and find, like I said earlier, that incompleteness to what changes happen in their relationships, or whether they've had a death. And I've been doing this for about 3 years, but I have been a therapist licensed for about 8 years.
It's fairly new.
So you have the experience. I'm just wondering, when you mentioned people saying that perhaps it's a morbid field, for someone who's as vibrant as you are, Merita, I feel your energy and I sense that you enjoy helping people indeed. How has that, let's say, helped you continue to be motivated to do what you do? Because grief is something that's very touchy, imagine.
One of the things that I like to tell people, I think sometimes we have this notion that when we're talking about grief and loss, it's only about losing someone through death, but there's about 40 different kinds of losses. For instance, moving, that is a loss for some. A change of job, that is a loss for some. And I personally had many different losses that I had to work through. And so I was looking for a program that would meet my needs as well as meet my clients' needs as well. And some of the other programs I felt stuck in them, and I'm really passionate about helping my clients. I tell people, yes, I want to make a living, but I also want to see people, that, what do we call it, their self-fulfillment or self-actualization, if they actually have the ability to.
Well, indeed, the work with your clients is important. What I gathered from what you said is, based on the number of losses, the different types of losses that there are, you actually painted a picture in my mind of perhaps dealing with younger clients, dealing with children who, for whatever reason, have to change their location. Maybe their parents change their jobs. Dealing with them when they're going through losses as well. Dealing with people going through divorce. If I can ask, what's your biggest takeaway from all of these seemingly different experiences as a professional and as a human being, first of all?
I think my biggest takeaway is that everyone is unique, and grief, like I tell a lot of people, it is hard. A lot of times we tend to intellectualize it, but it's really about the heart. And everyone is so different and so unique that I always tell my clients, I don't know how you feel, and no one will ever know how you feel when you're going through a loss. What I can tell you is that I experienced myself. So I know what I feel, when I'm going through that loss. So everyone who comes to me, even though they're unique, I like to make them feel comfortable. I let them know that it's a journey that we're going on, and I'm not going to judge them. I'm just pretty much there to help them. And I think they like that reassurance, and they like, how I normalize things for them.
Merita, can you explain to us what exactly is family counseling and what are some of the more frequent concerns that you see?
With being a licensed family marriage therapist, I work within the context of the family. We believe in the family system, and it is, how should I put it? It is a growing segment of the counseling family. I see people who suffer from depression, anxiety, self-esteem issues. And I also see a lot of bereavement because no one likes touching that. And I just have a passion for it. But pretty much I see a lot of different diagnoses. Some that I am not too familiar with, I would pass them on to my colleagues or refer them out. But those are just some of the areas that I see.
Have you done any work in rehabilitation counseling, Merita?
In what?
Rehabilitation counseling.
No.
Okay. Well, moving on to my follow-up question or backup question. Are you involved in any online services? And if yes, do you have any clients in St. Kitts and Nevis or beyond?
Well, not at the moment. I'm just here in Lawton, Oklahoma, but I am looking to branch out and to offer services to people in the Federation. COVID has really changed the dynamics of the world and how we do things. And talking to a lot of people, I realized that there is a need for it. I'm trying to work out some logistics and get things into place, because one of the things that I remember telling a friend of mine is that this is what I do for a living, but I also want to accommodate people. I don't want it to be a financial burden for them. So in order for me to provide my living, I have to make it feasible for everyone and comfortable for me as well. So that's something that I'm working on. And hopefully I will be launching that soon.
Can't wait to see it.
Indeed. So when people talk to me, I tend to get emotionally attached to their issues. How do you refrain from becoming emotionally involved in your clients' cases?
Well, I think it's important for any therapists or counselors to have clear, healthy boundaries. And I am a stickler for that. I leave work at work, and when I go to work begins. When I leave, it ends. But it doesn't mean that I don't have compassion and empathy for my clients. But in this type of work, we are human beings, and so we're connected through emotion. So it's very important for me to be grounded and to set those healthy boundaries with my client.
It's also important, going back to our discussion on loss earlier, is it also important to express to your clients that there is no set timeline for dealing with grief?
Yes, it is very important. And I'm glad that you brought that question up, because there's this saying that time heals all wounds. And I'm guilty of saying that. But with a grief recovery, method, what we do know is that time doesn't heal all wounds, because we still have people who are grieving like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in. What we say to them is about the steps that you take. It's about the things that you do that is going to help you to find completeness. So it's important for them to recognize that just by saying time healed all wounds, it's not.
And I'm aware that there are no real steps that you can say that would be applied to everyone as a one size fits all panacea. But can you walk us through generally some of those steps of dealing with grief that would perhaps lead to healing?
Okay. So it is unique for everyone. So everyone who comes to me, I have to realize that their journey is unique. Even though I might have had another client that is dealing with an issue similar to what they're doing, I try to set clear boundaries to myself to help me to not put them into the same box. And so what I generally do is get a history of what is going on with them, and also about the person who they've lost. And most of the people that I've seen for grief recovery had to do with losing someone through death. And so I try to normalize their feelings, because one of the things that they hear a lot is a lot of intellectual statements. Oh, you know what? God needed this person to be in his garden, or they're in a better place. What we don't realize that while it may seem to be true, people are hurting and sometimes dismiss their feelings by saying that. So I try to be very careful with my wording. And I just make a plan around what they've given me. And at the end, we come up with a treatment plan on how I'm going to help them to find completeness. And one of the things that I share with them is this book.
Okay.
And this is a grief recovery handbook. And I tell people, once you start to read it, you won't want to put it down. I used to provide these books for my clients, but then it got really expensive because they would bring them back. I love them so much that I never did, but that was so. And so I tell them, go onto Amazon, eBay, just buy it for cheap. And we go through that book, and there's a lot of tangible stuff. There's a lot of concrete stuff that we work on. So it is really hard work, and I let them know that from the beginning.
Well, speaking of work again, the work that you do is not only hard, but it's meaningful. And we want to thank you for taking the time to let us get a glimpse of what you do. And thank you so much, Merita. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
You're welcome.